I mean, the reason there's a lot of mythology around it is because it is quite hard to define, because it's a relationship-based job. So every time you do it, it's different, and every person who does it is different. I mean, what it is for me is unlocking the way that a character speaks. So it's quite unacademic for me. Although I do analyze an accent and break it down into teachable components. But I always make a set of drills, and they're always reasonably bespoke. I try not to use the same ones on any two projects. They are nonsense sentences that contain the sounds, the individual component sounds that you're working on. So Rami, being American, like nearly all Americans, finds it hard to get that rock, sock, fox vowel that we have in British RP. And that's about a combination of saying ah with the tongue, but rounding the lips, oh, oh. That's hard. Nearly all Americans will either do rock or rock, not the thing in the middle. So yeah, there's always a set of exercises to drill that. I normally try and find the actual words from the script that contain those sounds. So you're drilling the individual words and not ever the whole dialogue. I think that, voice coaches call it the oral posture. How the mouth is held is more influential on the way the accent ends up sounding, I think, than probably anything else. And it can be tiny. And this is also what I meant when I said, I think in that same interview, that accent work is more akin to learning a dance or a set of new dance steps than it is to learning a song. It's not necessarily about having a musical ear. It's about being able to identify tiny adjustments of muscle. So I'm talking about, for example, you can hear what it does to my voice without changing my accent at all. If I put my lips forward, that completely changes the resonance of my voice. And if I do the opposite, and I don't mean holding a smile, but you can hear what that does. It changes the sort of whole timbre of my voice. And if I do that with the corner of my lip, that also does something to the, and then it starts sort of affecting my muscle memory and taking me places. So yeah, I think the way that you hold your mouth and lips, tongue, make a massive difference. So that's movement in minutiae. The movement coach on Bohemian Rhapsody, Polly Bennett, and I work together quite a lot now. We met doing that project, but she's been on The Crown with me since then, and we did the Bond movie together with Rami. And she's very much the movement half of me. I feel she speaks the same kind of language, just in a different dialect, maybe. I think you have to train the muscles, the speech, the articulation muscles, to be as athletic as they possibly can, so that you have every option. Tip of the tongue, blade of the tongue, alveolar ridge, the back of the tongue, the lips, the variability of the jaw. I think if you can train as hard as you can in muscular dexterity, then the easier you'll find picking up an accent. Well, it starts with the writing. I think that whatever accent you're doing has to be innate in the writing. You can try and make decisions out with that, but they often don't work. I think the best examples of when it's designed to be that way in the first place. But then, of course, within that, there are individual choices to be made. There's actually a great quote from Cate Blanchett, who I've never actually met or worked with, but I'll paraphrase it, but I can send you the real thing. But she basically said that once you start getting into accents, you realize that it changes the way you breathe. And once you start to change the way you breathe, it affects the whole syntax of your thought pattern. The physicality affects the mind and the way that you think. So in that way, it absolutely is character. Even within families, people have different accents. because people have made choices, sometimes subconsciously, about the kind of people that they want to be. Your peer group has a massive, massive effect on the way you speak, or the kind of music that you listen to, or the social influences on what ends up being your adult accent are enormous. So getting into all of that stuff is great fun. Some accents are very vowely, and that's the way in, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's, for example, in the east of England, in East Anglia, there's an accent which I'll do a very generalized version of, where they sort of sound a bit like that. So it's all about the rhythm, about short and long syllables and the relationship between them. That's a way in, that short, long, that's rhythm. Whereas if you're going to do London, like old-fashioned London accents, that's about stretching out vowels, so there's a different way in for each of them, and that's hopefully what you pick up as you go on. The longer you do it, you get quicker at identifying the thing that's going to get you there fastest. There's a website where you can download accents for American stuff that's just called Accent Help. They're not that expensive, but you do have to pay for them. But you get a lot of info and accent samples to listen to. There's the Accent Kit. That's an app that's pretty good. I don't think you should ever have to spend too much money on them, because there's pretty much everything you need on YouTube, or you can find local radio stations. I personally wouldn't work like that, because I need the separation. I need to have a mental place and a physical place that I go to when I'm doing that. But I'm not judgmental of people who do that. I mean, the advantage is that you never have to conjure it from anywhere. It's there at your disposal all the time. The disadvantage is that if you are making a mistake in your process, you're making that mistake 24/7, and then you'll never get rid of it, because it becomes totally physical and habitual. Each to his own. But there are lots of actors who are not particularly good at accents, and I would never say that doesn't mean they're good actors. I don't think it's something that actors should be fretting over any more than, some people can do backflips and some people can't. It's a wide skill base that you need for this industry. I don't really think that accent is the umbrella term that you're really giving it. I don't think you can say somebody can be good at all accents or no accents. It depends on what your frame of reference is, and how much your imagination can fill the sounds that you're hearing with social knowledge. So if I'm researching an American accent that I've never heard before, I might get the sounds from some like local radio station or something, but without going there and experiencing it, all it is sounds, and I've got nothing else to understand the person from. So there's a lot more to it, I think, than just being good at it. Sure, some people have a really good ear for mimicry, but most people don't. And actually, in my experience, the people who are really good mimics are often not that great at individualizing character through accent. Somehow their taste and judgment is constantly monitoring the mistakes that they're making or not mistaking, and it's somehow at a disadvantage. I think the best people, in which I would hopefully include myself, are actually people with average ears that have to work and have a process of working and to acquire the accents very innately. You've got to be pretty robust to survive this business. And the people I regard as successful people, in that they're content and happy within themselves, it seems to me, are the kind of person who's quite content to let things come to them and not fret about trying to control things or manufacture circumstance to their advantage. I think it's a different time now, but I think when I was growing up, it was Thatcher's England, and their mentality was very much about success, and the more work you put in, the more reward you'll get. And the problem is that that isn't necessarily true, I don't think, in acting. It doesn't exist as an art form, particularly. On film, you can't be on a set without a crew, and you can't be on a stage without an audience. It doesn't exist as a concept without either of those two things. And that means it can get quite lonely when you're not doing it. And I don't think there's anything that you can do particularly to make things go better for you. I think you have to make your peace with the fact that things are going to happen to you. Most people I know are the opposite of that. They don't have self-belief. They have constant nagging self-doubt. And maybe that's what fuels them, because, you know, we all have self-doubt, but if you're very successful, you've got to maintain it. And that brings a whole new load of self-doubt. Now, I think actors are on the whole quite vulnerable people, and I represent something that can help them with one area of that vulnerability. So I know this is probably kind of slightly pedestrian, inane thing to say, but they're all really nice. You don't get a really successful arsehole.